All right, so we are live, but it'll take a couple of minutes for the notification to go out and for the people to get notified, and then they'll hopefully come in. It's noon, but either way, we'll get views on the other side when it's done being recorded and streamed to YouTube. People will still come in after after they're done working or whatever it is they're doing right now for the day. Jenny's here. Hey, Jenny. Good to see you. Jeff, Audit Them, Writes Crispy, Lou, good to see you folks. Our guy, Buzz, thank you for coming, guys. We're going to give it a minute or two. You guys know how I like to do it. Make sure everybody gets a chance to get in here. That way we don't have to go over information, two times or anything. We got a very special guest here with us today. So we're going to just give everybody a minute to get in so they can start from the beginning with us and go about it. Piner, Snap, hello, everybody. Disabled Outcast, good to see you. Travis, Angry Wise Old Lady, hello. Good to see you. Sam, Bamacam, King Bluto. All right, guys, another 30 seconds and then we'll start this shindig. Get everybody in here. Manny Pants from the UK, good to see you. Yeah, we're going to have a good time today here, folks. So I hope everybody's ready. I know all of you saw my video that I put out the other week about when I was in City Hall and about some of the stuff that was going on there. So, um, Gypsy Auditor UK, hello, sir. All right, we're at the 2 minute mark, so everybody else can just press rewind from here on out. And as everybody knows, I'm Rogue Nation, majorly awesome. That extends to my wardrobe as well. I know you guys are jealous out there. You like that? You can pick that up. Um, and today we're talking with Miss Rosa. I call her Miss Rosa. You can see her name. It's on the screen there. We're talking with Miss Rosa today, and she has got a great story for us. She's an activist above and beyond most people that call themselves activists. She's done a lot of good work, and she's here to tell us about some other good work that she tried to do but was stopped, unfortunately. So I'm going to turn this over now to you, Miss Rosa, and tell the story. Let everybody know what we're here about.
Okay. Thank you, George. First, I want to say my prayers to the people in Florida and North Carolina and other parts of the United States that have been traumatized by this horrible hurricane. But since 1980, I have been a activist for the people. I protested over in Camden, New Jersey, in Washington, and also in Philadelphia. As a survivor of police officer involved in domestic violence, I decided to tell my story. And I realized that the justice system is a bit broken, but it never stopped me from doing what I knew I had to do. So a cousin of mine recommended that I become a commissioner for the Citizen Police Oversight Commission. And I remember saying to him, I said, I'm not sure if I should do this because I'm very outspoken. And if I didn't agree with something, I'm going to speak on it. Oh, no, you do great. They'll pick you. And I didn't really believe that council people in the city of Philadelphia would appoint me because, as I said, I'm very outspoken. So when I took on the position and I was sworn in, I wanted to believe with every part of my being that I was doing the right thing and we will finally be able to do the right thing for the people like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tyreek Nichols, Walter Wallace, Eddie Irizarry, that was killed last year by a Philadelphia police officer. And believe me, there are many, many more that I can't remember. But I realized that in the first year, it was more of a wooing. They were trying to woo me. I was supposed to attend the PBI meeting, which is the meeting when it involves police officer, but I never was able to get picked up by them. They were supposed to pick me up. I do not drive anymore because domestic violence caused me to retinal detachments. So I am visually impaired. So I noticed that some things weren't just right, but I couldn't grab a hold of it. You physically want to grab something that you know was not quite right, but I wanted to wait and see. Then I received an email from Citizen One. I always have a thing of protecting survivors of rape or domestic violence or any abuse. And when I received these emails, and it was just not myself, it was other commissioners that received this email, I questioned the higher staff. And I received slanderous, malicious emails in my government emails about this woman and how they called her crazy, combative, mental, argumentative, and that she needed psychiatric help. And I was taken back by that response because I'm like, what are you doing? If you had any kind of training in regards to any kind of abuse, any trauma, you know very well that you're wrong for making comments like this. We are never supposed to blame, shame, or guilt a survivor of any abuse. Let it be by police abuse, let it be by rape, or let it be by domestic violence. I know that firsthand. So that told me that this staff was not trained properly in regards to survivors. So when that took place at a town hall meeting in April of last year, I myself and my husband witnessed a staff member's husband physically put his hands on this woman. And when I heard her scream, I ran to her defense. I put my body between them. As I said, visually impaired, I didn't know who he was at first because I thought he was hired to do the recording of the town hall meeting. But I came to find out that he is the husband of the woman that put Miss Citizens One name out there. I have to get permission from her to say her name, and I want to protect her.
Absolutely.
But she her name was mentioned in our Zoom meetings, and I was taken back because you are never supposed to mention any survivor rape and domestic violence, and she did. And all she was asking for was an apology, but she never got an apology. So when I witnessed that physical altercation and I reported it to my chair, Jali Hatchett, and to the rest of the commissioners, the staff was trying to convince me that he was justifiable for doing what he did for putting his hands on her. And I said, no, he's not. And stop trying to convince me. No matter what you say, no one has the right to put their hands on you. And this was a back and forth government emails. And I said, no, I can't agree to that. So they passed over the incident to the Inspector General's office. Now, not only did I give a confidential report, but I was interviewed by the Inspector General. And before that, right before I did my interview, it had came to my attention that several of the staff members were employees of the Inspector General's office. So I knew once I heard that this was going to get pushed to the side, that nothing would become of this. But I sent you a video that showed we were all 9 commissioners. We're all in this meeting, and we promised Citizen One, that we will make sure no matter what the Inspector General found, we were going to make sure that she received accountability and justice. But that never happened. And when that happened, I got harassed. I got bullied at town hall meetings. And when Eddie Irizarry was killed, I attended the rally. This is a neighborhood that I grew up back in the 60s. And I was questioned. I was reprimanded by the chair, by other commissioners, because I attended the rally in support of the community and in support of the family of Eddie Irizarry. And no matter how much I tried, and I knew that this was not going to stop, I knew that they were going to continue to harass me. But George, I wanted to believe, I really wanted to believe that the Inspector General would do the right thing, would say, no, no matter what you say, no matter if they were our ex-employees, we are going to do the right thing. And it didn't happen. And it led me to feel that the justice system is so broken that I didn't know where to put my head at.
Where
So
where
in
can
the
you go
in the
to? Where can you go to when the people that are supposed to protect our rights are in cahoots with the people that are violating our rights?
Oh God, I wish I could answer that. I really, really wish I could answer that, because when I was going through all of this with CPOC and the upper staff, I reached out to City Council, and every time I was being either reprimanded or harassed, I would make sure that City Council and Councilman Jones, this is his baby. CPOC was created to help the citizens to try to work with the police department. But I was getting reprimanded because I was reaching out to Councilman Jones. And my my cries, reaching out for help, went on deaf ears. So I knew I knew no matter what. Um, I was told by Jali Hatchett before I was suspended that he lost confidence in me. And I didn't need for him to have confidence in me. I have confidence in me. And I knew that everything that I was doing, not only for Citizen One, but there was another gentleman I was helping, and a third gentleman, and I would have never released his name out of fear of retaliation. So when I reached out to City Council, and I never got a response, never got a response. They never, oh, let me be honest, it went on deaf ears. So before there was an executive meeting, and this is what I'm being accused of, that I recorded an executive meeting. As I said, I'm visually impaired, and you can see that I was having a hard time trying to get onto the stream, and I couldn't get on. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And so I said, let me just use the phone. It just pops up right away. There was an executive meeting that took place April 2nd. And on April 2nd, I was harassed. There was arguments. I was to blame for what Miss Grimish's husband did to Citizen One, because she read my confidential report that I gave to the Inspector General. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, how in God's name did you get a copy of my confidential report? How was she able? Because she was being investigated as an employee of the city of Philadelphia, and so is her husband an employee of the city of Philadelphia. So I'm trying to make sense of this. And once that executive meeting took place, um, I reached out to the chair and I asked him, how was she able to get a copy of my confidential report? Because she was the one being investigated, and so was her husband. And he told me to reach out to the Inspector General's office. And I did. Not only did I call them, But I sent them emails because I felt that this should have been investigated. How was that she got a copy of my confidential report? So when I did that, and I spoke to a young man named Khalif from the Inspector General, he made it very clear to me that on no circumstance are they to release any confidential report because it will put me in danger. And it was released, and it did put me in danger. So when that incident took place, that I was to blame, that I helped Citizen One because we were friends. I've only met her once, but I knew that there was something extremely wrong here when you attack a survivor. I have a pit peeve. I'm sorry if I stutter because I'm freaking angry. How dare you attack a survivor? So it didn't make any sense to me. And then they convinced City Councilman Jones to change the legislation. And the way they changed the legislation was to have them remove me or suspend me as commissioner. Now, I sent you the video when I spoke in front of City Council. And they took so much time investigating me. And that's another thing I would like to bring up, investigating me. But I never sent slanderous emails and I never shared anything confidential. Who I was corresponding was the commissioners and city council. This is who I was corresponding with. It came to the point, and they're all in government emails, that they said for me to get a criminal attorney because they were going to press criminal charges against me. And I'm like, criminal charges? If you check my background, I never even stole a piece of candy. So I'm like, what's that about? So I tried to hire an attorney, but because I never was charged and I never was arrested, no one would take my case. So I went in front of city council and I told them my experience. And again, I feel that my voice went on deaf ears. And not long after that is when the commissioners voted to suspend me. So they suspended me for 9 months, and they kept saying that I wouldn't come to their office. And it wasn't that. I didn't have an attorney, excuse me, but I never travel alone because of my vision. And I knew better than to sit in front of these two attorneys. There was Attorney Twig and Attorney Takado. And I know this was an interrogation. This was not to show me anything because there's nothing to show. All they said in the report that I was communicating with people that harassed the staff and bullied the staff, which is a lie. They just wanted to know where their report went. They wanted to know if an investigation was done. But the truth is, we were told by the interim chair, executive director, that we are not allowed to see any reports. We are not permitted to review anything. So I even volunteered to go downtown to look at these reports, but I've never saw Citizen One's report. I never saw the other young man's report. I didn't see the person that I refused to also say who he is because of retaliation. Never saw the reports because we were not allowed. For them to accuse me of releasing confidential information is an outright lie.
Right,
Now,
because you didn't have any confidential information, right? I just want to make that clear to the people watching right now that this committee was set up to look over citizen complaints. Like, the citizen complaints were not supposed to go to the police department at all. They were supposed to go to this committee, and this committee was tasked with looking over these complaints. If they found justification, they would turn it over to IA. But what Miss Rosa is saying, that the 2 years since they've been in operation, not one citizen complaint has crossed their desk.
No. I can honestly say when Eddie, and that was all over the United States and in Puerto Rico and everywhere, when Eddie Irizarry was killed, I saw the press release. And I made it very clear to them that I could not agree with this press release because I knew in my heart that there was more to that story than meets the eye. Well, I have to thank our district attorney Krasner because he was the one that released the video. He was the one. It was not, and believe me, we had an investigator, Jameson, that went to the scene. And when the video was released, as I said, I was reprimanded. They questioned me if I was at the executive, not the executive meeting, if I was at the, there was a press conference with the family and with representative of the Latino comunidad. So when they questioned me, were you at the press conference? I said, no, I was at the rally. But it revealed that CPOC staff released that press release and it was incorrect. It was not right. So when I questioned Jameson, I asked them, share with me, how did you feel when you saw that video? Because I don't know anyone that would see a young person being killed the way Eddie was killed. I think it affects all of us. So when I saw how they treated him and how they dragged him out of the vehicle like he was a dead dog or a dead deer, it impacted me. And when I questioned Jameson, only thing he could say to me that there were discrepancies, and I said, that's it. All you feel is discrepancies, and I said, and I say it, and I'll say it to you. I was pissed because it was not handled properly. So since last year in the summer when Eddie was killed, I was still being, things were happening to me. I even went through a class through the police academy as a civilian to learn more. But that was like no big deal. I have a picture with the last commissioner and receiving my plaque as my husband and I took this class because I wanted to know more. I wanted to learn as much as I could in order to help my community throughout the city of Philadelphia to work with the police department. So when I was sent a subpoena, and I know I'm jumping everywhere because that's how I think. In the subpoena that they sent me, they wanted Citizen One's emails. And it mentions her name, and they wanted my Hotmail and my Google emails. And I have to emphasize that at no time did I release any confidential because I didn't have anything, but I was a listener for Citizen One. And when I saw that they sent me that subpoena and her name's in there, I knew more and more that something was just not right. And I sent through all city council the subpoena, what they're accusing me of. They accused me of recording an executive meeting, which is a lie. They accused me of sending confidential emails, which, because they're not proving that. They keep saying we can't show it because, it's sensitive material. It's impossible, impossible, because
Yeah.
there was no sensitive, yeah, impossible. And I'm like, yeah. So September 26th, and they tried over and over again to have me come to the office. But as I said, because of my vision, I don't travel alone. We have one commissioner who spoke in the meeting, Du Bois, and she said she read the material, but I have to correct her on that. She's blind. I'm visually impaired, but she's blind. And it's impossible for her to read it. The only way she can read that is that her employees would have to read this material. So for her to say that she read it, it's an outright lie. Even in a Zoom meeting, I questioned the young men Hassan Bennett, Hakeem P.A., John Solomon. Did you ever see any confidential information I got from John Solomon? I plead the fifth. Hassan Bennett, he kept calling out to Catherine Twigg, but she never responded. Hakeem said, well, I seen some stuff. We seen nothing. And nothing was ever released and no recording was done. I'm going to go a little back from the very beginning. The commissioners received a compensation, a stipend. They called me a thief. They said I demanded $3,000. And I said, that's a lie. Daniel Guy, who's the office manager, I made it very clear to him, if there are any discrepancies, just correct it and let's move on. But they didn't. I had KYW coming at me, Axio coming at me, and I gave an interview to Channel 10 here in Philadelphia, but I never took anything. And from the very beginning, I attended all the meetings from North Philly to Germantown to West Philly to Southwest Philly. Even in my district, I attended meetings. I attended not the Zoom meetings, but town hall meetings with the community. There were meetings I attended that I never added into the stipend. I said, it doesn't matter. I don't care because I didn't become commissioner to become a millionaire. And I'm a volunteer. So what they did, George, instead of doing the job that they were being paid for in regards to police officers who had gone rogue, they were investigating me. Now, this last and final report I received from them, how were they able to get to my personal phone? Oh, wait, I forgot something. Catherine Twigg, and I have text messages and I have the Ring doorbell. Last year came to my home with a kit to put on my personal phone and my personal computer. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to agree to that because there's nothing on there. I forward all the texts to her that I had with the commissioners. I said, there's nothing. But now I had the city attorneys with on conference phone and another gentleman from the kit company trying to convince me. And I'm like, no, I knew something wasn't right here, but I also know that the only reason why they wanted the emails, they didn't want that email that Anthony Arachi and Talia Grimmins slandering Citizen One. They were looking for that email. They were looking for that. And I never shared that with Citizen One. I shared it with the other commissioners. And John Solomon, when all this took place, was supposed to meet with Citizen One, and she had a flashback, and we all, anyone that survived any kind of trauma, any kind of abuse, we're very protective of ourselves. I know I am. So in the last email that I received from Catherine Twigg, they're going to allow me to go and speak in front of City Council again, and I'm like, why? They're not going to listen to me. They're not gonna hear anything I have to say. Um, they called me unhinged, and that was told to me by city council. And I'm not unhinged. I'm empathetic. I'm compassionate for the people. And me trying to help three citizens, and I knew right then and there that this was not meant for the people. This is a lot of taxpayers' money. We're talking about millions. We're not talking about 100,000 here and 100,000. We're talking about millions of dollars that the taxpayers voted on. They voted to bring in CPOP. It was PAC, but now we're CPOP. But it's not, it's nothing that I had thought would ever be. And I have to say, it has left me disheartened, because I wanted to believe. As an activist, we're for the people. As an advocate, we're for the people. And I made it very clear I am not here to appease them. I want to help the people. But
Hang on one second.
sure.
Citizen One asked me to ask about the wiretap.
Well, we believe, and so did some, and I won't mention the reporter's name, that we are being wiretapped. How were they able to get into our phone line? When I spoke to the inspect not the inspector general, when I spoke to the district attorney, they don't deal with stuff like that. And then I spoke to a high ranking retired police officer. And he said, there's no way that a high ranking officer would agree to doing some bogus um, investigation and wiring my phone or my emails because I never gave them approval. So for them to say that they subpoena my phone company, my cell phone company, is a lie because I spoke to the law department there and they never, ever received any subpoenas, none whatsoever. So did someone, and I don't know, I can't say, I can't assume because you know what happens when you assume. So I said, who did it? And I did request from the law department, I requested for the subpoena that they sent to my phone company, my cell phone company, and to see who signed off on it. Because the subpoena that I received in regards to Citizen One was signed off by the director of investigation. It was not a judge, nor was it a magistrate. It was not them. It was not them.
Okay, I'm not
So
familiar with Pennsylvania law. I'm not sure who can sign off on that, if it's just the judge or not. So,
yeah. Well, here in the city of Philadelphia, it has to be signed off by a magistrate or a judge. But it wasn't signed off because the people who signed off on the subpoena for information on Citizen One were the director of investigation. But he left. Jameson Rogers is gone. Our last chair is gone. Some of the people, and I wasn't in communication with a lot of the people there because I knew something was very smelly and talk about conspiracy, bullying, because I wouldn't go along with what they were saying. Harassment, I wouldn't go along with them. I just wouldn't because I mean I have morals. I'm not like no, you were wrong, and you can't convince me. And I think that's what really made them angrier, that I wouldn't say what they said. Basically, Jali Hatchett, Hassan Bennett, John Solomon, and Elder Du Bois, they wanted me to go sit in a corner and shut up. But I'm
right,
like,
just
no,
ignore
that's
what they
not
were
gonna.
doing. Yep.
And this is not blonde hair. Let's get this right. This is white hair. And when I spoke in front of city council, I made it very clear I'm not planning to run for office, but I know why I became commissioner. I know that this was for the people, but it's not. And there are many people who do not trust CPOP because of how they handled situations, and they didn't handle it properly. Everything
Right.
they did was illegal. Yeah, it was illegal.
Now, now I want to touch on a couple of things real quick. They've
Sure.
recently rewritten their bylaws so that they can act as a quorum now, because it had originally started as 9 commissioners, and they're down to like what, four now, I believe.
Hmm.
They're down to 4 commissioners, so they had to rewrite their bylaws so that they could uh, have a quorum in order to do anything. Um, and their other commissioners haven't been replaced. I don't even know if they're looking to replace them. Maybe they've just absorbed their money, which is an important. aspect to me, in the 2 years they've been operating, I think it's around $7 or $8 million that they've been given. Do you know what they could have possibly done with that money? Did they rent like a headquarters? Did they get office furniture and office people and
No.
no?
What I can tell you is that um, Anthony Hirachi, our interim executive, huge salaries. It didn't, and we questioned that. We put a pause on hiring because a person receive getting paid $60,000 jumped to $100,000, and that's in less than a year. And when we questioned him on that, he said, "Oh, I didn't want to lose them." Well, you could bring in better people. I kept saying, you need to bring better people that are going to, because you're supposed to work for the people. You're supposed to work for the people. Another the managing officer of the office manager, he was making, I believe, 50, and it jumped to close to $80,000. So in the city of Philadelphia, there are how you say ranges what you're supposed to receive, and I don't know anyone from the city that makes that kind of money that quickly. So when we questioned, they were angry. When we questioned to review their resumes, they refused. So it was like one reporter said to me, "But you're the commissioner." I said, and I said, "I'm telling you, they're saying, look over here, don't look over there. Look at her, don't look at them." But it is them. You have people in place that were not doing the job that they're being paid for. So you're making $100,000. I applaud you, but do the job. Having events is great with the community, but it's more with CPOC than just having events. It's more than that.
Yeah, I mean,
But
event, it's not an event company, it's a citizen oversight board, you know? I mean, how can you even consider doing your job when the main focus is pushed to the side? I don't care how many carnivals you hold in the community or how many, walkathons or whatever kind of crap you want to come up with to give us back a pittance of the money that you're stealing, you know?
exactly, exactly.
So,
I'm like, I am, George, I feel like I failed. And Citizen One always says, you didn't fail, but I do. I felt that my reasons for becoming commissioner, it was not the same as the other commissioners. And when they were doing some really illegal things and not willing to work with us, and one one commissioner who resigned, and Froza Hussein, she called me a bully, and I'm like, no, no, no. I say, you're describing me improperly because she was our co-chair, and when our chair was never available, I thought as our chair for the commissioners that she would be at these events, and she was never there. I met her once when we were interviewing our general counsel, and all the commissioners agreed upon that no staff should be in the interviews. Well, when I got to the conference room and I'm looking, I see that Daniel Guy, office manager, and Jameson Rogers were in this interview, and I questioned it. And why did I do that? The more that I questioned things, the more I became more in trouble. That I wasn't allowed to question, but they were in those interviews, and I mentioned this to the chair. Two of the staff were there, so to call me a bully, and I barely spoke to her at these interviews. And the only thing I asked her, why don't we see you at some of our meetings with the community? And the only response I got from her was that I only go to meetings that are important to me. But as commissioner and as chair, you have to let the community know that you are there for them. And that's not what they saw. They didn't see that.
No,
They see that, yeah.
no, and my buddy Wrights Crispy's in the chat now. He'll tell you better than anybody that these people, they don't think they've been elected or appointed or anything to serve the people. He'll yeah he'll tell them that they are, feel that they're royalty now, that they are above and the common folk are beneath. And it's, I don't know where the mindset comes from, but a story such as yours, and I would love to say, Miss Rosa, that this is just something that happened in Philadelphia, and there's other places out there where people are honest and hardworking, and they care about the little man and the victims and stuff like that. But I haven't found it, and I've been looking.
No,
I mean,
no,
I take my camera and I look under every rock and crevice in every community that my car will take me to, and I haven't found it yet. Now I found
no.
some halfway decent places, but even those places still have an element of corruption that goes on in there. And again, it's human nature. We've had it since
Yeah,
the dawn of time. Rome was
yeah,
corrupt and Greece was corrupt, and when you get a government so big, it just, it's its nature to become corrupt, right? Because a little bit of power goes to a person's head, and then all they can think about is keeping that power and enlarging that power, and then enlarging their money. And it's just a sad
yeah.
downward spiral. uh, I'm of the mindset that we need to have these public officials not elected, but just kidnapped off the street like the KGB. You know what I mean? Like, because to me, when a person seeks out power, that's the exact person we don't want to have that power. I mean, just ride down the road with a kidnapper van and snatch Farmer Fred right off, you know, leave his chicken feed on the street and just grab Farmer Fred and throw him in there. He's kicking and screaming, no, no, I got a family to feed, I got jobs to do. You do, sir. You have your civic duty to give 2 years of your life to this government so we can run correctly, instead of having these power hungry morons in here, getting elected for life in one aspect or another. I mean, it's so dirty. It's so dirty.
It is. And I definitely want to say to your audience that my ethnicity was brought up and it's in emails. I'm a diabetic, and during this whole ordeal, I couldn't get my A1C down. And my health was questioned also. Like they didn't see anything wrong with me. You can look at me and say, okay, listen, she looks great. I'm being a little conceited right now,
You look
but
great. You're fine.
thank you. But I'm a diabetic since 2009. I'm on from Trulicity to Ozempic, and then the insurance company thinking that I'm using it for weight loss, but I couldn't get my A1C down. And the more they harassed me, the more they embarrassed me, they attacked my character. I'm being attacked by the media. And when they call me Commissioner Thomas, I was a bit uncomfortable because I was like, I'm Rosa. Please don't call me that. Just call me. I used to tell people, don't call me that. Don't call me that. I'm Rosa. And I'm gonna die, Rosa. And I'm always, as long as I can, and as long as the Grace Spirit allows me to, I'm gonna try to help. But this whole ordeal has been a nightmare. It has affected my health, my self-respect. You question my ethnicity because I'm like, why did she do that? And even the reporter saw that because she mentioned that in what they found out about me, what I did wrong. And I'm like, who does that? Who does that? Why did she do that? And why did she question my health? And they all know that I'm visually impaired. There are things that I didn't see. And I would have to constantly apologize to them. But with Elder Du Bois, it was different. It was a whole different manner. So it has taken a lot out of me. And as I said, my reason was to help the community throughout the city of Philadelphia, not just one district, but all over the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
You have
thank you
questions?
again. Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
Citizen One asked me to ask you about the hiring of the city council and the executive director. So maybe there's something there between the executive director and city council.
I believe when is she asking about the new one or the old one?
I'm not sure. I'm sure both of
Okay.
them probably have some dirt on them.
Okay. So when they were in the process, because I wasn't in the hiring committee for the new executive director the first time, that was only Jali Hatchett, Hassan Bennett, Elder Du Bois, and Judge Lerner. I was not a part of that. So I didn't know what was taking place with the meetings. It was never shared with me, which was fine. The other commissioners, I was a committee on the general council. So I didn't know. But for Miss Ann Hussein to say that I bullied her, I wasn't a part of the hiring process. And that was for Anthony Irachi. Now, the Hassan Elder and Jali did not want Anthony, but Judge Lerner did. But there is a history that Anthony Irachi has with the city council. There is a history there. So they were going to choose another gentleman, but it all came out that you cannot hire a ex-police officer who was a part of the union. And the FOP is a very large union, so that stopped. We were meeting and we were trying to get things resolved, but then we weren't allowed to meet. So one minute we're allowed to meet, next minute we're not allowed to meet, and that stopped. When we hired the general counsel, and as I said, I have her text and I also have the Ring doorbell. So with her, instead of her sitting down with the rest of the five or six commissioners, she was supposed to sit down and have a powwow with us, which she never did. And she went along for what the staff was saying. She listened to them that we were bullies, that we were this, that we had, and I'm like, she's going to do the same. So this past, what was it? It was in either March. We started interviewing for a new executive director. And I was very impressed with Miss McClary. And she shared with the commissioners that are left that in Dallas, she was there with the Latino community, that she was helping them get IDs because they were constantly being harassed, and she went through the free library. So I was impressed with that. And I wanted to believe with every part of my being that she was going to do the right thing. But when she came on the Zoom meeting, she's made it very clear to me that she was going to support and do everything for her staff. So I'm like, oh, I'm done, because it didn't matter what I said. It didn't matter how much truth I said to her, she was going to go along. So when I got suspended, and the first time, the reason why they suspended me, they said I was in communication with adversaries. And I'm like, adversaries? These are citizens who needed our help. It's a big difference. These are people that made and filed reports, and you call them adversaries. I call them citizens. That's what I call them. So I knew between being suspended for being in communication with adversaries, I was a thief. I gave information, confidential information to the inspector general. It went on and on and on and on. And all of that is documented through the media, through emails. And I'm like, and now when I got suspended, and now I'm removed. And they say I still have a chance to go in front of city council. And I know I'm repeating myself, but
Well, let me just touch on something again here for the viewers, so they can
okay,
grasp the seriousness of the situation. They
okay.
said that you were in touch with adversaries when actually the adversaries were citizens who had complaints against how their cases were being handled, whether it be a police case or a case against city worker or whatever have you. But they were calling these citizens adversaries. They were also saying in emails that these citizens were combative, argumentative, disruptive, that they were harassing CPOC employees, um, and all that stuff. So everybody at home watching now can realize that this is what the government thinks of you when you ask questions. Now, if you don't ask questions, if you go into City Hall and you're like, "Oh, Mayor, I love the tie. You're such a guy. Here, let me donate $50 to the Fraternal Order of Police," they will allow you to go about your merry way. But if you're in there and you're asking questions, no matter if you're a citizen or if you're a commissioner on a citizen oversight board, they will find a way to discredit you, to sweep you under, to make it seem like what you're saying is not important, and maybe that you even need medication. That why is she asking these questions? Who cares where the $7 million went? Ooh, you know. Um,
Exactly.
it's like
Exactly. Yeah.
it's like a bad Charlie Brown Halloween special, where did the blanket go, Linus? you know?
Sorry.
Yeah.
And I either want to cry or laugh because you're so right. You're so right. Sadly, I was the one that would not go along. I wouldn't agree and I wouldn't keep silent.
Yes.
And, you know, my heart goes out to my communities in the city because going to CPOC and filing a report about a police officer that has gone a bit rogue, you're not going to get a proper investigation. They only investigate police officer and shootings.
Yeah.
They only do that.
Well, let me say,
And
Rosa, and I think I'm going to speak for everybody that's in here watching, that has watched, and that will watch in the future. That you did not fail. Okay, you did not fail, and let me give you an analogy to show you exactly what I mean.
okay,
Let's say that I wanted to change the Hells Angels, right? And so I joined the Hells Angels and I tried to turn them into a knitting club where we sat around and we knitted quilts and stuff like that. And the problem is the same problem that you encountered, is that the system itself is corrupt. So it's impossible for us to go in and change the system from within. A lot of people say, "Hey, well, hey, why don't you get a job, into the city, and why don't you?" And it's the same thing. And I tell them this: why don't you join Hell's Angels and turn them into a knitting club and see how well that works out, right?
amen.
Because yeah, they have a specific purpose that they do. Um, It's just the way it is. You're not going to have one person go in and change the system. And unfortunately, um, that's what we're left with. We had two county commissioners get elected in a county down here. No, actually, excuse me, there were three out of five county commissioners. There were three new ones that were elected that were going to go in and clean up the county. Well, all three of them got phone calls from the developers of the Villages, which is the world's largest retirement community down here in Florida, and they have mega bucks. And all three of those commissioners got telephone calls to go sit down and have dinner with these developers. And one of them did, and the two others did not. And a couple months later, those two others got kicked off the commission for exchanging information. You know what I mean? Like, these people have been running things for a long time, right? They're not going to let some beautiful do-gooder come in
Yeah.
there and
Yeah.
help the people, right? Because there's
Yeah.
no money in helping the
No.
people. There's no
No.
money at all. Just like if police were to do their jobs and the DAs were to do their jobs and the judges were to do their jobs, we would have locked up most of the criminals 50 years ago. And what happens is and because I know, because I've been in the system, I see this, is what they like to do is they like to give people with violent crimes like murderers and rapists, they like to give them 5 to 10 years. And they give people like, say, Farmer Fred, who's 60 years old and has a field of marijuana, they'll put him in for 100 years. So what they do is they stuff our prison with these nonviolent criminals that are growing weed or smoking weed or whatever, doing whatever it is to themselves. And then they say, well, we don't have no space, so we got to kick all these guys back out on the street. I personally knew a gentleman that got 6 years for a murder charge and was back out on the street. And they do
Uh,
this because they realize that these violent people are going to re-offend. And that's why we have a 72% reoffender rate. And so while that happens, they can point to the crime statistics and say, look, crime's not going down. We need more tax money. And in fact, they're allowing this crime to continue so that they have a source, open wallet to continually. I mean, every year, nonstop, it doesn't fail. The cops, sheriffs, they're all requesting more money, more toys. I need bulletproof vests. I need heat-seeking lasers that can go through walls. I need robotic dogs and aerial craft. And LA's got like 17 helicopters up in the air all the time, you know? And it's like, why are we paying to harass and police and imprison ourselves? Because that's exactly what we're doing. We allow them to make all these laws against us, and then we pay them our money and say, here, have a guy sit down the road for me and catch me when I'm doing something wrong so I can go to jail and I can lose my family. Because that's exactly what, the freedom
that's
in
exactly
America
what
is.
happened. You know, allow me to share with you, George. When I when I share with my children, my oldest son is 47. My son Moses would have been 45, and my daughter Olympia is 43. And when I decided to take on this post as commissioner, the other two were very proud, but so was my middle son Moses. But Moses worried. He was so worried about me, and he would say, "Mom, I'm worried about you because you don't know you're going to go up against police, but you don't know these people, and the type of person you are, Mom, is that you're about helping." Well, not long after that, right before I was sworn in, my Moses was killed in a vehicle accident. And I always felt that I was doing this for Moses, you, my other George, because my son is George, for my citizen one, for the young man who is always in the court system trying to receive justice, for the young man, the other young man that reached out to me, to my sister survivors, my brother survivors, my children. That's why I feel heartbroken, and I have to constantly tell myself, and when I get up in the morning and I hope I have this ashes around my neck, and I say, Moses, I did everything I could to make sure that people like you and me and everyone receive the justice that they deserve. But I'm one person, and I didn't become commissioner to become famous, or look at me, I'm commissioner. No, I became commissioner to help the citizens and the people in the city of Philadelphia. Yeah.
Well, you've done a lot in your incredible life, and even today, you're helping citizens with this story because you
Thank
know
you.
the problem that we have in this country is apathy and the fact that people are busy with their own lives. Freedom has been great for one thing, and that is to distract us, right? You've got freedom of 500 channels on TV, and ain't none of them telling you anything worth a damn, right? You've got freedom to
Exactly.
choose from 15 different fast food places that'll make you obese and kill you off quicker so the government don't have to dole out your social security to you. So there's a lot of
Very
freedom
well
in this
put.
country. Yeah, there's a lot of freedom in this country, but it fools a lot of people. But what just like with an alcoholic, if they don't realize that there's a problem, then they're not going to go to AA, right? They're not going to try to get help. And Americans today, they don't realize that there's a problem in the system because, as you noted, the media will spin it around when somebody does start asking questions or something comes out. The media is right there hand in hand with the government. So we don't always get, I would say we'd never get the real story from the mainstream media. And we have to go to alternative sources, to find our news now in order to get some kind of clearer picture. And then even then, I find that we have to go in ourselves and get the required information
Yeah.
because the only time I see elected officials or cops in the news is when they've pissed off somebody they shouldn't have, right? Somebody higher up than them got
Exactly.
pissed off or they need a scapegoat. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
oh yeah, something was wrong, here, so let's fire this guy, or whatever have you. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, until the American
You-
people wake up, we're gonna be
yeah.
living this nightmare that they call the
Yes.
American dream.
Boy, I agree with you 150%. It's not I used to feel that all the protesting in the world and the speaking up, and because after my last young lady that I went to court with for more than 2 years, and believe me when I say this, George, I never asked her for car fare or anything like that. She couldn't wait any longer. She was trying to get a protection order from a police officer, her children's father. And I felt so defeated. I feel like this right now, but then I feel that you're hearing my voice. You and your followers are hearing me now, that this is serious. And this is not chunk change. This is not a couple of pennies. This is a lot of money that comes from the citizens. And no matter what the OIG, what our city council says, you are wrong. You were wrong. And you will never be able to convince me. You allowed this to continue without doing your proper investigation. Wrong. That's how I feel. Wrong, no matter what they say, they were wrong. Yeah. You
Right.
should have done your homework. The minute they came at you and called me unhinged, you should have done your homework, but you went along with them. So you were wrong. But I'm not going away. I'm far from done. I'm definitely far from done.
Well, I could tell you that we all love to hear that, Miss Rosa.
Oh,
And
thank you.
you're absolutely right. There's a couple of reasons why they turn their head too. Is either because they're getting a payoff, they've been blackmailed. There's some dark secret in their past. You know,
Hmm.
when we talk about political movers and shakers, there's nothing that they won't do in order to get the goods on somebody in
Yeah.
power. I mean, we see these scenarios in TV and the movies, but a lot of this stuff has a spark of truth. There's nothing that would, example, if I was a political mover and shaker with money, I would have no problem whatsoever hiring a on you know lady of the night to spike a senator's drink and to take some pictures with her in a hotel room, right? A married
Yes.
Christian man, and have no problem with it at all, right? At all. And I barely got a couple of bucks in my pocket. Can you imagine what people with millions of dollars will do in order to ensure that they keep those millions of dollars, make more of those millions of dollars, and never go to jail because of it? They're willing to do a hell of a lot.
Yes. I just don't think being quiet is it fits me. My father, may he rest in peace, before he died, he said to me, of course in Spanish, he didn't worry about me. He said I had a lot of mouth. My dad felt that I had a lot of mouth and that I spoke up. And I'm like, yeah. So he said he didn't worry about me. He worried about my older siblings. And I'm the youngest of 9 children. So when Pop left, he said, in Spanish, I don't worry about you. He said, mucho boca, mucho boca. He says I had a lot of mouth. But I don't plan to go away, and I will continue my being an activist and that shoulder for my survivors. And CPOC has to be reconstructive. Am I saying that properly? They got to change.
They
You
need
can't keep the same.
re-educated. They need to go
Oh
to
my
the
God, yeah.
re-education camps. That's what they need to do. They need to go sit
Yeah,
into a class that's talking about the Constitution and the people they actually serve.
yep. And they forget that that's how they get paid. So to my co-commissioners, wishing you the best of luck. Wishing you the best of luck, because I'm not a hateful person. I'm not a hateful person. That's not my character. So it just disheartens me of the treatment that Citizen One received, and other other citizens. And yes, I have to stand up for myself, because the harassment, the bullying, the being treated like a 2 year old. Mom was 65 years old. Give me a break. No. And I won't go sit in a corner like baby. You can't put me in a corner, because, somehow, some way I'm going to come out and speak for the people. So, and no,
Excellent.
I don't plan to run for office. I keep saying this. I don't want to be a politician. I'm for the
No,
people. And
no,
I
you
always thought that politicians, yep,
yeah, you're not going to get anything done. You're not going to get anything
no,
done because you're
no,
fighting against the system, and there's so many in the
yeah,
system. So you're not going to get anything done that way. The best way I think that we people like me and you can get something done is by motivating and rallying the people to see that there's an issue that needs to be addressed. Once the population sees that there's an issue that needs to be addressed, it will be addressed, right? I have no
yeah,
doubt in my mind that Americans have the will to address issues that they realize are issues. But with all the smoke and the mirrors going on now, and of course the country's divided half and half as it is, so it's even harder to get the people together on an issue. But I think when that time comes, I think we're all going to be the much better for it. So I'm going to
yes.
continue doing it the way I do, and I hope and pray that you continue to do it the way you do.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
absolutely,
I,
absolutely.
I have to let you know that you are now in my phone, and I put George the hero. That's what I
Yeah, no,
I
no.
said, George the hero.
The,
I call you the hero.
well, thank you,
So,
ma'am.
and to Citizen One, boy, she makes me proud,
She
because
does.
she's amazing, and
She's a
so is the
bulldog.
other. Oh my God. And I'm just proud that there is someone that stood by me because I refused to relinquish any information about her experience and what she went through. I just refused, and I'm like, nope, I'm going to protect her. And I've done that. I've done that for women in the UK. I've done that for women all over the United States, and there are a lot of women that have reached out to me who are survivors that I would never relinquish their name, where they live, and I can. There's one lady, Clara Colon, and when Clara Colon and I, for almost 15 years ago, we became the best of friends, and people called her a liar, and she was lying and lying, and that's what they called her. And it finally came out who her ex-husband was, a New Elizabeth, New Jersey police officer. And the only reason why the police department finally came at him was because he broke his girlfriend's nose, who happened to be a co-police officer also. So that was the only reason. And Clara and I together, we have been speaking out for years. And before that, over in Camden, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I would do puppet shows, and I would protest over in the city. I would protest in Washington, but it was always for the people. And for the young lady, Ada Guzman, at a Puerto Rican parade when she was punched in the face. I protested for her. So I've always been for the people. They didn't care where you come from, what language you speak. I am for the people. I just helped one lady that's from Pakistan, can't release her name, and another young lady that's from Puerto Rico. And these are survivors of domestic violence. So I'll never stop, and I'll never stop for young men like you, George, and my son. And you know, I'm gonna keep being that mama bear and look out for the people.
You always have a friend here, Rosa, and like you
Thank
said,
you,
you have my
George.
number. So if
I
you ever
sure
come
do. I
across
sure
anything
do.
that the people need to see, you just let me know, and we'll be happy to showcase that for everybody, so they can see exactly what some of these issues are without the snow job of the mainstream news. So, all right, we're a little bit over an
Thank
hour,
you.
which is fine. I want to
Okay.
say
Yes.
thank you again
Thank you.
for coming up here. It takes a brave person to reveal themselves as someone who questions. Right? Most people that
Yes.
question try to hide because they realize the retaliation, the level of retaliation that could befall them. So um, I'm proud to know you, Miss Rosa.
I'm proud to know you too, George. Thank you. Thank you so much. And to your
Absolutely,
listeners and your followers, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it for us, and we
Be
will
blessed.
catch you guys on the next one.
Thank you.